This is eCoffee with Experts, where marketers and founders share what's actually working in SEO, AI, and digital growth. Grab your coffee and fuel your mind as we chat with top minds about their wins, struggles, and lessons you won't find in a blog post. Brought to you by Digital Web Solutions, we bring real talk to help you grow your business, one episode at a time. Let's get started.
Hey, hi everyone. Welcome to your show, Coffee with Experts. This is your host, Ranmay here. And today we have John Hutson, who is the head of digital operations at Inc. Digital with us. Hey, John, how's it going?
Yeah, very good. Thanks. And pleasure to be here. Thanks for the invite.
Lovely. John, before we move any forward, why don't you talk us through your journey a bit, how it all started and how did you land up in the SEO space? Because when we all started or when we were in school or college, SEO was not really a career, so to say, right? So take us through your journey, how it all went through, how did you land up in the SEO digital marketing landscape, and also more about Inc. Digital. What are your core offerings? What do you specialize in? And we'll take it off from there.
Yeah, no problem. I'll try and distill about 20 years in about 20 seconds, if at all possible. But I think even to this day, I'd say it's quite common for people to kind of fall into SEO. That very much happened to me. So if you cast your mind back to probably late 90s or mid to late 90s, I started sort of getting excited by the prospect of you could earn money online. I just sort of fell down that rabbit hole. I was making websites. I was trying to make products and sell products, and realized, of course, I needed traffic to the website. And then I found out about this thing called SEO, gave it a try, hated it completely. It really didn't sit with me at all. I just couldn't be bothered to work out percentages of keyword density and all that kind of stuff. Then realized that I still actually have to sort of work on it because it's either that or pay for the traffic, which is a hobby. I didn't have the finance to do so. So I found this weekly email course and literally just followed the steps, and the rest is history in respect of I realized that I could get results. I really enjoyed it in the end. And then whilst I was doing all of that in my own time, I was working at a call center and at university, and there was a situation that came up. It was either take redundancy or sort of stick with that company but change your shifts, etc. And I thought, well, now's the time, just take the plunge. And my first job started the day after my last call center shift, and that was SEO at a gambling company called Ladbrokes in the UK. And I was working on the casino project, so that just skyrocketed my knowledge because A, I was around other SEOs, and B, it's in gambling. So, really sort of jumping in at the deep end there in terms of my first move. And then after 2 years there, I've then been agency side ever since. And then, of course, worked my way up within the agency space from an account manager to strategist to sort of a team lead, and then head of SEO. And then more recently, head of digital roles as well. So as far as Inc. Digital are concerned, so we started out as a SEO-only agency, formerly known as Mr. SEO. And we then, of course, wanted to expand our offering into the paid media side of things because they're very complementary. And then as we started to grow that area of the business, we then realized that we needed to have a new name to sort of represent the fact that we are a digital agency and not just an SEO agency. So about 3 or so years into that journey of Mr. SEO, we then transitioned to Inc. Digital. So we've been about 6 years in total in operation, and about 3 years of Inc. Digital as this format. So we offer SEO, paid media, social media, web development and design, and CRM as well. I think I've covered everything that we cover. So apologies to the teams out there if I've missed off a service, but yeah, that's us in a nutshell.
Lovely. Quite a journey, I must say. John, you have been in the industry enough summers and winters now and would have seen quite a few Google updates, right? Mm-hmm. So what is that one update which you feel was quite significant and, kind of made us work a bit or change our tactics quite a bit?
I'll probably actually go back to as far as Penguin, which was quite a few years ago now. And that was for those unaware or kind of relatively recently in the SEO space, that was all around the backlinks. It was either that or it was Panda. I know it was one of the two. I think one of them was more on page, one of them was more off page, but irrespective, it was a lot more kind of to understand natural link profiles. So before, if you wanted to rank for a keyword, every single link that you got was exact match anchor text for that keyword, and then that would get you the results. But of course, in the real world, if a website was to link to you, they're either just going to copy and paste the URL, and that's your anchor text, or it'd be click here, or it'd be visit this website, or it'd be, keyword usage really, or if it was kind of like wrapped up in a bit of a phrase. So that was more natural. So a real big shift in diversifying anchor text straight away, but also a real big shift in terms of the types of links you were getting as well, because within reason, you could really push the envelope in terms of relevancy. So you could probably get a link from a dog training website if you've got a website about cars, and it would still be okay because the anchor text says, car insurance. But of course, nowadays that's completely shifted over the years following that algorithm update. So I think that's probably one of them. And then the rest has sort of been just quite iterative in their very nature. Of course, there's always like what would be considered big shifts, but I think they're still rooted in a core, whereas Penguin was sort of like a new frontier, if that makes sense.
Absolutely, absolutely. Even, my answer to that question quite a few times have been Penguin, and actually kind of the searches, right? A
Mm-hmm.
lot of new players kind of coming into the top 10, the major players who are spending quite a few on links and maybe, not doing the right thing the right way, kind of lost rankings overnight. So that really, made the top 10 quite a bit. So,
Mm-hmm.
so yeah, so I relate to that. And yeah, I mean, talking about scaling of agencies, I mean, Think Digital, you guys yourself have doubled down in the last months or so, right, in terms of increasing the team size.
Mm-hmm.
So, what do you think, while scaling up, key parameters that an agency should keep an eye on while scaling the team, getting more clients in, and ensuring that nothing gets rattled in the process?
Yeah, very good point, because it will very quickly fall over. So I think one of the key things is taking an inner look at yourself very regularly. What sort of what touch points are failures or not that efficient, and therefore
Mhm.
can they be iterated upon to make them more effective, more efficient, and ultimately scalable. So for Ink Digital, if we're talking from an operational sense, we had which worked, but like if we were to look at like using that today where we're at now, completely collapsed. So we had a couple of project management systems, believe it or not, one for communication with clients, one for managing tasks. And then we also didn't know how much time we were spending on a client. We didn't know the general profitability of clients, etc. as well. It was just like we just do the work, and we jump on this one day, we jump on that another day. So we completely restructured how we manage projects. So we got a single consolidated project management tool. Everything's in there, all the discussions, all the tasks, the dependencies, who's responsible, due dates, how long it takes per month against the client as well. So we can get a feel for general sort of profitability. And then also the onboarding for a new client as well was very good to begin with, but because it's now centralized in that one system, it's even better. And we've since iterated on that as well. So to sort of give an example, on the project management tool, we've got a template for SEO campaign or paid media campaign, whichever campaign it is, where you've got what would be considered your standard onboarding tasks, and then the possible work that you'd be doing in month one. And then that just gets adjusted per client, and then the client can see everything as well. So I think looking at yourselves in terms of inner processes on a regular basis, and being humble enough to go, actually, do you know what? I don't care if we've done that for the last 2 years. Like it
Yeah.
needs improving, and then it's better for the end client as well.
Absolutely. While you're scaling up and as quickly as you guys did, there are a lot of things that you should keep in mind to ensure that the client deliverables are also not hit. Right? And from a process standpoint, and then you know what, I'm not sure if it happened with you, but processes that you would have created for a team size of, let's say, 5 folks, right? And you'd realize you need some immediate tweaks on the go. You're really scaling up, right? It might not
Mhm.
fit in for a larger set of people, right? Fact, irrespective of how much progression planning do we do, real-time challenges will still be there while you're really, really scaling high, right? So I get your point there. Now, coming to SEO, because you have been an SEO guy for your life now, if I may put it that way, right?
Yeah,
So now you see that SERPs are being eaten alive by AI overviews and zero-click features and all of that. You're rewriting the SEO playbook, your agency to kind of stay ahead of the curve.
a good question that everyone's going to be scratching their heads on. So my personal take is, when I say ignore Google, I don't mean literally, because that's like the vast majority of traffic sources. But if you only think about, okay, well, how can I just squeeze as much juice out of Google as possible? It's almost like that ship has sailed, and it's arguably only going to get worse and worse in respect of zero click searches and referral traffic. especially with AI mode as well. So that's just yet another layer outside of AI overviews. So my stance is to actually continue with all the SEO best practices, the audience research, producing the content that your audience needs to sort of help them make a decision or put yourself front of mind when being considered for a purchase. But it's diversifying those traffic sources. All the content that you produce that's well researched, well optimized, can be therefore repackaged and distributed across TikTok, LinkedIn, Pinterest, YouTube, podcasts, you name it.
Yeah.
Ultimately, just repackage it up into different formats for different platforms and get your brand out there, because your end customers are going to be everywhere. They might use Google, for instance, or they may use an LLM to, when they're in market, to then start doing the research and prepping them ready to make a decision. But pre that, if they're your target market and you meet them where they're at before they're actually ready to make a consideration, then that's the playbook, really. And that's why SEO is still so valuable, because even if from a literal direct traffic referral from Google, even if that's diminishing, the process that you go through for SEO pays dividends across other platforms, as I say, because you've got well-researched, optimized content. And then the end experience as well for the website. Let's not forget, SEO isn't really just about the ranking directly. If you're a good SEO, you should be thinking about the
I'm
end user
glad you
at all
said that.
times. Yeah. And so therefore it is a case of, well, how does the website actually perform when people arrive? Is it fast? Are there any bottlenecks? Are there any sort of script errors that are causing issues with submitting forms? You name it. That's why I think it's a little bit of a disservice to just label it as SEO really nowadays, because a good high quality SEO will do all of the above to make sure that your brand's visible. And that's really, I would say, the sort of quote unquote new playbook. But let's face it, it's marketing. It's marketing that is with SEO in mind, if you see what I mean. So that's my stance. I wouldn't say fight against this whole click-through rate diminishing, because you won't win, but instead understand what you can leverage from your SEO playbook to distribute your brand further out there across different platforms.
Absolutely. You mentioned quite a few pointers there, which makes me think, how do you define, the success, or what factors would you measure or report to the client, when organic traffic is no longer the only, holy grail metric that we used to follow back in the day?
Something that we're still in progress of actually sort of putting into action fully, because it's an educational journey as well, because the actual stance from our end is almost put the traffic centric metrics further into the report, because it's not front and center anymore, like you just said. But of course, you can't just pull that rug out from underneath the client's feet and say, oh, by the way, we're just not going to really talk too much about that anymore. We used to for the last 20 odd years, but we're not going to anymore. So there is almost like a transitional period. But I would say, let's face it, I mean, I've always said you can't go to a bank and say, can I have a loan because I've got 10,000 visits to my website? Like, you say, can I have a loan because I've got 10 million pounds worth of revenue coming in every single month? That's what the bank is going to listen to. They're not going to listen to how many sessions you've got. So flipping it to be a lot more commercially driven. But the consideration for that, though, is really pay attention to the whole tracking side of things and the full end-to-end journey. So we work with a lot of B2B clients that would actually close offline. So our sort of end point is, okay, well, we got, say, form fill or phone number click, or, they booked a call with you as an example. But we've then sort of been working with them on the CRM side of things to make sure the value of that traffic that turns into an inquiry, that then ultimately turns into a sale, no matter how long down the line that is, can be considered as, right, that was an SEO contact that was produced. It took them 3 months to close, but the revenue was X for that particular client. And likewise on the paid media side of things as well, and the social side of things, this is proving very valuable to be able to understand what campaign, what keyword was searched for, what campaign was clicked on, to then contribute to that journey as well. So it's almost push traffic a little bit further to the back, because that's the vanity side of things. And then it's a case of understanding the actual performance of website and how that's turning into revenue wherever possible. But it is a journey, and it's quite a, shall we say, painful one at the moment, because you've got, especially in-house marketers, they've also been reporting in the same that we've been reporting. And then they've got to suddenly communicate that upwards and then say, oh, by the way, I don't know, CMO or CEO, I'm not going to tell you about traffic anymore. And they'll be like, what? So that's the stance. And I'm all ears for any other sort of approaches as well, because I think it's still relatively new, plus the fact of I'm thinking that GA4 data is just getting worse and worse. So yeah, that's a big challenge. I think is an educational piece as much as a data piece, to be fair.
Absolutely. Okay, John, it has been a great session. You've shared a lot of insights. Listeners, think of John Hutson, let's say years from now. Impact do you want to be known for in the marketing world?
Well, as a big one, I certainly don't expect to be thought of as sort of marketing world at large. They may never come across my name ever again. But I think, to be honest, anyone that I work with, I like to try and have a bit of knowledge imparted. So when they get further along in their career, they can say, a wise man once said to me, whatever I said, and then they can pass that down. So yeah, I think not sort of at the marketing world at large, if everyone goes, "Oh, John Hutson, yeah, I know of him," or like he's like Alex Hormozy or anyone like that. But certainly, I think for anyone that I work with directly, or even any clients I've worked with directly, whereby they can take a particular nugget that I've sort of passed on, so to speak, which no doubt I've had from people I've worked with over the years, and then that just sort of gets passed on into the next generation of marketers, really.
Lovely, John. Yeah, thank you so much for taking out time to do this with us, John. Really appreciate it. For our listeners, if they want to reach out to you, how would they do that?
Definitely LinkedIn. So yeah, you'll be able to find me with my name. To be honest, that's where I frequent nowadays. I don't really jump on any of the other social platforms. But yeah, feel free to drop me a connection request. You saw me on this podcast, and yeah, I'll be happy to speak to you.
Right, lovely, John. Thank you so much, man. Cheers.
Thanks for having me.